Hi, I'm Jian Lee. I'm a computer vision researcher at Omnis Labs Company. Thank you for registering for our Introduction to Python course. This course is a course to learn basic Python programming. Introduction to Python course is suitable for those who aim to develop basic programming skills, get familiar with Python programming language, and acquire basic knowledge of computer science. We tried our best to exclude difficult, especially mathematically difficult contents. This course is provided in English. Currently, only Korean and English captions are provided, but we plan to support more languages in the future. First, I'll briefly explain about Omnis Labs Company and Omnis Labs Company's service DeepBlock, and then we will continue with the lecture. Omnis Labs Company is the developer of an AI platform called DeepBlock. DeepBlock is a creative AI platform that allows users to easily create AI models without coding, and users can share their AI models with others. Users can use DeepBlock without any knowledge in computer science or AI. Visit deepblock.net for more information. In this course, you will learn the basics of programming and learn the Python programming language. This course is for beginners who have no programming experience. Anyone who can use a computer can take this course without any burden. And through this course, learners can acquire basic Python programming skills. I will explain what you will learn in this course specifically. First of all, you will learn what programming is and how to do it. This course will be taught in the Python programming language, and we will also teach you how to use the Python programming language. The course begins with lectures to understand what variables, types, and functions are, followed by lectures and exercises on conditional statements and iterations. The next lectures will be about data structures provided by Python programming language. After that, you will learn how to handle files in Python and learn about classes. Lastly, you will learn about dictionaries and modules. All you need to prepare is a computer or a laptop with good internet connection. In addition, knowledge of basic mathematics such as arithmetic operations is required. It is recommended that you have completed learning high school level mathematics. Let me explain the syllabus. Today we're going to have our first lecture. We're going to learn what variables, operators, and operations are and what a program is. After that, you will learn what a function is, how to write and use it, and learn about conditional statements and iterations. Then you'll learn about string data type and learn how to process string data and learn about data structures provided by Python. You will then learn how to handle files with Python and learn about class in Python. Next, you'll learn how to use and process a data structure called dictionary. Lastly, you'll learn about modules. Now, let's start today's lecture, variables and operators. First, let's talk about what programming is. Computer programming is a process of using a programming language to create computer programs to do specific tasks. If so, you may be wondering what program is. A program is a sequence of instructions that lists what computations the computer must perform to do a task. Here, you can think of calculations as most of the things that computers can do. To make it easier to understand, let's use an analogy. When making a movie, the process of making a script can be thought of as programming, and the script can be thought of as a program. If we think of actors as the computers, the acting of actors is like the execution of the program. What are things a computer program can do? You probably have used various programs while using the computer. For example, a calculator program on the computer allows doing calculations. We can find or replace the text in the document, and you can even create and edit videos with computer programs. In addition, operating systems such as Microsoft Windows or Linux that can run various programs are also programs. And through programming, we can implement these various programs. A programming language is a language used by humans to make a computer do something. There are many different kinds of programming languages in the world, and these programming languages allow people to control computers. Now, let's take a look at the Python programming language, which we will study from now on. Python is a programming language invented by Guido van Rossum, and it is a programming language that can be used to develop various programs. It is relatively easy to learn and use compared to other programming languages and has gained a lot of popularity in recent years because it can be used for many purposes. Python first appeared in February 1991 and has recently been used in various fields such as automation, data analysis, and machine learning. Since the courses provided by Omnis Labs company are mainly related to AI technology, we decided to teach the Python programming language, which is widely used in AI and deep learning. In this course, you will use the command line interpreter provided by operating systems. The command line interpreter is an interface where you can interact with the computer, and you can give commands to the computer in the text-based UI and check the computer's response. The command line interpreter is supported by almost all OS. It is called Command Prompt in Windows, and it is called Terminal in Mac OS and Linux. If you look at the screen, I'm sure you've seen a command prompt or terminal before. First, let's talk about the Windows command prompt. Open the command prompt by searching for CMD in the startup menu. Here are some commonly used commands. If you type dir, you will see all the files and folders in the directory that command prompt opened. To move to a different directory, simply enter the CD folder name. CD means change directory. For example, if you want to move from the current directory to a child folder called bird, you can type cd bird. cd ... allows you to move up one directory level. There are many other commands besides this, but in fact in this course you won't use the command prompt often, so you only need to know these commands. The following describes the terminal of Mac Linux. On Mac, in the Applications folder, go to Utilities and you'll find Terminal. You can also pin it to your desktop or taskbar. There are various versions of Linux, but in the case of desktop distribution, Terminal is installed by default when you install a Linux. You can usually launch Terminal by pressing Ctrl-Alt-T. Commonly used commands in Terminal are ls and cd. ls shows all folders, files in the current directory. You can think of it as the command that acts like a dir in Windows. And if you want to check even the hidden files, you can enter the command ls with -a option. You can use cd to move to another directory, just like in Windows. You can use cd ... to move up one directory level. Now, let's install Python. You can run Python code by installing a Python interpreter. There are several Python interpreters, of which we will install Anaconda. You can also install a Python interpreter other than Anaconda. Anaconda Python is available for Windows, Linux, and Mac. Anaconda Python is implemented by a company called Anaconda, so we will use the free version called Miniconda to avoid license issues. First, download and install Miniconda from the following website. In this lecture, we will teach you how to install the Python on Ubuntu OS environment. If you want to install Miniconda in another OS, you can check the installation method by accessing the link on the screen. For Ubuntu, it is recommended to install with the default setting, but enter yes instead of no at the final question. After installation, reopen the terminal and you will see base attached to the front. If you want to verify that the installation was successful, type Python into the command prompt or terminal, then press enter. If Python is successfully installed, you'll see the following screen. Triple right angle brackets means you're running the Python prompt. To exit the Python prompt, type Ctrl-D or exit. The Python prompt is also called the Python shell, and through this environment, a user enters code into the Python interpreter, and the Python interpreter manipulates the computer to perform the action. Recently, various companies are providing online Python development environment. If you do not want to install Python on your computer, you can find and use an online Python development environment. However, some online Python development tools do not support a file system, so it may be inconvenient in the later lectures. Therefore, we recommend you to install and use Python on your computer. Typically, software developers use a program called Code Editor to write code. You can write the code with Text Editor, but it is recommended to use Code Editor with various functions. Various code editors exist, but in this course, we will use Visual Studio Code, an open source code editor. Visual Studio Code is a free open source code editor developed by Microsoft. It has recently become very popular around the world and is available for Linux, Windows, and Mac OS. And for convenience, users can install and use Debugger in Visual Studio Code. A debugger is another program used by programmers to test program and to monitor the program's execution progress. With VS Code, you can use the Python debugger in addition to the code editor. After installing Visual Studio Code, click Extensions on the left, search for Python, and click the Install button to install the Python debugger. In the previous slide, we mentioned that you need to install a Python interpreter to run Python programs. There are two ways to communicate with the Python interpreter. The first one is to use the immediate mode. If we use the Python shell, we can communicate directly with the Python interpreter. This method of communicating with the Python interpreter through the Python shell is called immediate mode. For example, if you enter a line of code in the Python shell, the Python interpreter shows the execution result of the code directly in the Python shell. The second way is to run your Python program in script mode. If you want to use script mode, write a Python code to a file, save it, and enter Python file name to the command prompt. Then we can run multiple lines of Python code at once. Now, let's write our first Python program. Let's try both modes. First, let's write a Python program in immediate mode. Open the command prompt or terminal and type Python. You should see 3 right angle brackets. Now type print hello world in the Python shell. Hello world will be printed on your screen. Now, let's run the program in script mode. Open the VS Code you installed. Select File, New File from the top menu and type in print hello world and save that file as helloworld.py. You can save the file to any location you want. VS Code has a convenient terminal. Click Terminal, New Terminal in the top menu to display the Terminal tab at the bottom. Then, if you want to run code, click Run without debugging from the menu, and you can see that Hello World is printed. You can also run Python programs in script mode from the command prompt or terminal. First, open the command prompt or terminal and use the cd command to navigate to a directory where helloworld.py is saved, and type python helloworld.py. You will see that Hello World is printed. Today, we will learn about values, variables, and operations. You can think of a value as the smallest unit used by a program. A string or number that can no longer be calculated and simplified is called value in programming languages. Values are then grouped into different data types. There are several data types in Python such as string, integer, float, and list. We will continue to learn about these data types in the future. If you want to know the type of a value while writing Python code, you can check the type of the value by putting the value in type parentheses. Let's try it ourselves. In the Terminal tab of VS Code or in the command prompt, type Python in the terminal and open the Python prompt. Enter commands on the slide to check type of each value. A screen similar to the one on the slide will be displayed. There are three types that will be used the most. Int is a type that stands for integers such as -2, 0, 3. Float stands for floating point number and means decimal numbers such as 1.2 or -0.3. Finally, str is a string and a sequence of characters such as hello or a single character corresponds to this type. The first thing to note is that numbers enclosed in quotation marks are treated as string type. In Python, anything enclosed in double or single quotes is treated as a string, whether it is a number or a character. The second thing to note is that floats cannot represent all decimals. Since a computer is a machine with finite amount of memory, it is difficult to calculate and store decimals like repeating decimal. Next, let's talk about variables. You can think of a variable as a box with a name attached to it. For example, the Python code n equals 17 means store the value of 17 in a box named n. The Python code myText equals double quotation high means store the value high in a space named myText. Unlike the equal sign we use in math class, equals means storing the right value in the variable on the left. Why do we need quotes in string type? Quotation marks are used to enable the computer to identify variables and values. The Python interpreter recognizes English characters without quotation marks as variables, and English characters with quotation marks as string values. There are other reasons why quotation marks are used. For example, 7 plus 1 is evaluated as 8, but in the case of 7 with quotation marks, plus 1 with quotation marks, 7 and 1 are both string type values, so the value 7,1 is calculated as a result. That is, quotation marks allow computers to distinguish between mathematical numbers and numbers inside text. As mentioned earlier, equals means assigning a value to a variable. In programming, when you indicate that values are equal, you can use double equal sign as on the screen. For example, if you enter 1 equals 1 in the Python shell, you will see that true is printed. Open a Python prompt and enter n equals 17 and name equals quotations John line by line, and check what happens when you enter n and name again. You can see that 17 and John are all assigned to n and name. If you want to change the values of n and name, you can reassign the values. For example, if you enter name equals quotations Kate, you can see that name has Kate. Next, we will learn about expressions and evaluation. An expression is a combination of values, variables, and operations. Any value like 1, Kate is an expression, and 1 plus 1 is also an expression. If a value was the most basic unit of the program, an expression can be thought of as a more complex unit consisting of values and many other things. And the evaluation of an expression refers to the process of turning these complex expressions into a single value. For example, if you assign 1 for x and create an expression called x plus 1, evaluating x plus 1 can be called evaluation of expression. When the expression x plus 1 in the example is evaluated, x is replaced by 1, then the expression becomes 1 plus 1, and 1 plus 1 is evaluated, and finally the value of 2 is derived as a result of evaluation. You can think of the term evaluation as calculation. Open a Python prompt and enter the following code line by line. What values did you get? 1 plus 1 yields 2 as expected, and len text yields 4. Here, len returns the length of the string enclosed in parentheses. The number of characters in text is 4, so 4 is returned. Let's use variables. Enter x equals 1 and enter x plus 1. 2 comes out. So what happens if we assign x plus 1 to another variable? Try typing y equals x plus 1. As expected, the value of y is set to 2. Note that y is not x. That is, y and x are different spaces where x contains the value 1 and y contains the value 2. In Python, when an assignment happens, the expression on the right side of equals is evaluated as a value and assigned to the variable on the left. Now, let's talk about operation in Python. An operation requires two things, and its two components are an operator and an operand. You can think of operators as basic elements used to perform calculations, and operands means things like numbers used in calculations. For example, in 3 plus 2, plus is an operator, and 3 and 2 are operands. The most commonly used operators in Python are as follows. Arithmetic operations can be performed with plus, minus, multiplication sign, and division sign. Percent is called modulo operator and returns the remainder when dividing the number on the left of percent by the number of right of percent. For example, if you evaluate 4% 3, which is 4 modulo 3, you get 1 because the remainder is 1 when 4 is divided by 3. Double asterisk is the exponentiation operator, and 2 double asterisk 3 is the cube of 2. So it is equivalent to multiplying 2 by 3 times and evaluates to 8. Finally, double slash is an integer division operator that returns the result of flooring after dividing the number, and the result is an int type. For example, 6 double slash 4 evaluates to 1. In this lecture, we learned how to install Python and Visual Studio Code. We also learned about variable, value, operator, and assignment. We will now solve practice problems, which will be given at the end of each class. Read the following questions and predict what will be displayed to the Python shell. The third problem is to find the sum of the length of your name, age, and birth year by writing a Python program. You can find the length of a string by using the len function, so try using that function to implement a program. Answers and explanations for each question are provided from the next slide, so first, pause the video, try to solve the problems as much as possible yourself, and then play the video again. Let's solve the first problem. y/x returns 3.0. The type is float. In Python, using slash always returns a float type. If double slash is used, an integer type value is returned. If double slash is used, even if the result of division is not an integer, the number after the decimal point is discarded. Let's solve the second question. Let's go through the code line by line. In the first line, the value San Francisco is stored in a variable named myCity. Then, in the second line, x becomes the length of myCity. MyCity is San Francisco, so x stores 13. When calculating the length of the string, the space characters are also counted. In the third line, myCity becomes the value Busan, but x is still 13. Since x and myCity are separate spaces, x is not affected by changes of myCity. So in the last line, since the string length of myCity is 5 and x is 13, in the evaluation process, this code is evaluated as 5 plus 13. And finally, 18 will be displayed to the Python shell. The third example can be written using a length function. Create variables named name, age, year of birth. Then store your name, age, and birth year in those variables. Add len name and the rest of the variables to print the value. Congratulations on completing your first lecture. Next time, we will learn about functions. Thank you for watching.